You know, I gotta say, hi everyone. Let me just make sure that I've got this stream all lined up. Hopefully, you can all hear me. Ah, there I am. Hi everyone. Liam Bobrick he says it's going to be an interesting chat tonight after the climate change video. I've got to be honest, watching the comments on that climate change video is so funny. It really is. It's so funny and so sad at the same time, to the point where actually somebody commented and said, please, if you value your faith in humanity, don't read these comments below. And I feel like I had to pin it at the top as a public service announcement. It amazes me the amount of falsehoods that people will believe, and the amount of conspiracies that people will believe in, however far-fetched. And usually you know when somebody is about to come up with a far-fetched theory on climate change, because they start the comment off with the words, I'm not a scientist, but... It really... Yeah, that climate change video has been a long time coming, and I've been waiting for the opportune moment to do that. And I think with Extinction Rebellion happening last weekend, it really did help tie everything together nicely, forming a nice little bow with the video. So I've put it in a playlist. And if anybody does think that it's all a hoax, then go and watch part 2B. I address people who think it's a hoax and scientists who are on the payroll of somebody. I address them in that video. Hi everyone. Somebody mentioned earlier, and as it's just before I came on air, let me just get up to it. Hi Hoodie Woman, how are you? Hi Kenneth Knopic. How are you, my British friend? I'm fine, thank you, sir. How are you? If I remember where was it you were from? Was it Australia or America? I can't remember, Kenneth. Who was it that asked this question? Matt Medic said, can you talk about the cannabis law in the UK? I have extensively. The cannabis law in the UK is ridiculous. It's illegal to possess it. It's illegal to smoke it. It's illegal to take it for medical conditions, although there are a couple of instances now where you can get medical cannabis, but you have to jump through hoops. Meanwhile, if you are growing it for your own personal use and the police spot it and there's no not in my backyard stuff, they won't prosecute you for it. If they catch you with a dime bag on you, they're not going to prosecute you for it, especially if you're not causing a public nuisance. But the government still expect the police to prosecute people for offences for marijuana, all the while there being more places in the UK now that grow marijuana than there are police officers in total in the police force. And also the UK is the largest exporter of legal marijuana in the world. That is the cannabis laws in the UK. You tell me whether they are stupid or not. Hi, Nikki. Hello, intelligent people of the internet. Best in the world, said Hoodie Woman, Louisiana. You would not be thinking that if you saw the comments on the climate change video. You really wouldn't. Frank H, can you please keep us informed about the climate protest, Gordon, because the MSM don't bother, thank you. They will, Frank. They will only, these, like I said in that video, these, pretty disappointed actually. I feel like I rushed the ending on it, and there's a couple of points I didn't make. But the main point I think is made, although I didn't specifically make it, and that is this is just the beginning. What you saw with the Extinction Rebellion is just the beginning. It's going to get... That was just 6,000 people, and they basically shut a city down on a Saturday. Imagine if it's 60 million worldwide, and it's shutting the world down on a Wednesday. Because it could very well get to that level. people will stand up and sooner or later push back. And they will have to take notice eventually, because it will get to the stage where it starts costing them money. And once it gets to that stage, once these protesters start hitting them in the pocket, that's when business and, of course, governments are going to start standing up and doing something about it. I hope I made that clear in the video, but as I can see it, that's the only way they're going to check. Because if we don't stand up and we don't fight this, they are just going to carry on burning fuel at the rate that they are, making money the rate that they are, subsidising the fossil fuel industry at the rate that they are, being corrupt at the rate that they are, and they are not going to stop. The only people who are going to stop them is us. And it was good to see the Extinction Rebellion happening, and get used to it, because that ain't going away, and it's going to spread to other countries in the world. It's going to happen over the next few years. Hi Xeno Scientology. I noticed you, mate. Hi Magnetic Conscious. Good afternoon, Thomas Rittenhouse. If we stop the traffic, says Neil Gardner, you don't just stop people getting to work, but you disrupt supplies and food stores and ambulances, saving lives. One thing that the Extinction Rebellion did do, Neil, is they made it clear to the police if there was an emergency vehicle that needed to get through, they made it clear that those vehicles could get through, and they laid a path for them. So that's something that really they were really quite good. I even got to the point where I saw articles that were condemning people for spraying on buildings, but even I was set right with that by Nikki, who was there. It was just a water-based paint. It can just wash off. It wasn't permanent. And people obviously gluing their hands to buildings and etc. etc. It was good to see, and just lying down in the middle of the road. That was fantastic. Just watching disabled people literally just tip themselves out of their chairs just in the middle of the road, just shutting down an entire city over a weekend. It was just fantastic to see. And we're going to see more of it if there's going to be any change in our future, unfortunately. There you go, Nicky's just said, we left 2 bridges clear for emergency services. They made it quite clear. They even, I believe Nicky will tell you, I believe the organisers even actually sat down with the police and came up with, a way to be able, for the emergency services to be able to get through. It was great. I tried to find something to complain about with it, and I couldn't. It was great to see. It was really well done, and well done for Nikki for going down there. I can guarantee you this, movements like that are going to get a lot bigger and a lot louder in the years to come, because it's just going to get worse. Right, everyone, I want to talk about something, and it's something that I know quite a few of you have asked me to do a video about this, so let's see if I can do it justice. Because hi everyone, so I want to ask you 2 questions tonight. So I want to ask you 2 questions. The first one is, are you a Jeremy Corbyn supporter? Hashtag JC4PM. Do you support his policies? That's the first question. So I'm assuming a lot of you who watch my videos will say yes, we support him. And the second question is, do you want to leave the EU and stop Brexit? Do you want to remain in the EU and stop Brexit? Because if the answer to the second one is yes, I don't see how the answer to the first question, do you support Jeremy Corbyn, I don't see how that can be yes as well. Let me explain, because I see this a lot with people. A lot of people who support Jeremy Corbyn are also supporting a people's vote and want to remain in the EU. And I don't think these people understand, or maybe I'm confused. But as I see it, those two things are in direct contrast to each other. They're in direct conflict. Because I support Jeremy Corbyn, not because he's a great talker, or not because he's, the most inspiring person in the world, or he's, the most suave and charismatic. He's clearly not. I support Jeremy Corbyn because I support his policies. Now, the fact that he's, I think, a good person, and in my lifetime, I don't think we've had a good person as Prime Minister of our country, that's just a bit of a bonus. I support him because I support his policies. You see, I support his manifesto. His manifesto is exciting because I support a massive investment in the housing development industry in this country, to build more affordable housing and to also eliminate homelessness in this country. I support that policy, and I support the fact that he says, I want people to build these homes who are getting paid a living wage and who are not being exploited because they come from an Eastern European country, for instance. I support that. But would the EU allow that to happen? The EU being a rules-based organisation who are always looking for little rules that countries try to put into their laws that may tilt the playing field, tilt the fair playing field, as the EU would put it. Would they allow that to happen? Would they allow that massive investment in cheap, affordable housing? Or would they say it was unfair? I support his policy to take back the transport and utilities industry in this country and to renationalise the railways, for instance. I support his policy to renationalise the water companies. I support his policy to immediately renationalise the Royal Mail. But the EU, if we were to stop in it and Jeremy Corbyn was to become Prime Minister, would they allow that to happen? Or as a rules-based organisation, will they say that that is tilting the fair playing field? I support Labour's policy and Jeremy Corbyn's policy for an abolishment of zero-hour contracts. I think it's basically legalised slavery. Would the EU allow that? Would the EU allow us to abolish zero-hour contracts? These are all questions I don't have the answers for. But I want to ask the questions, even so. Now, I support Jeremy Corbyn saying that he wants to clamp down on giant multinational companies, making use of tax avoidance schemes that are in the EU to hide billions of pounds that could go to use in this country and should go fairly to use in this country, but they're hiding it offshore. He wants to stop that from happening. Would the EU stand in his way? It being a rules-based organisation with these rules on a level playing field. And most importantly for me, especially after the video I've just done today, most importantly for me, I support Jeremy Corbyn's policy to support a transition to a publicly owned, decentralised energy system with a massive investment in green energy in those sectors, to the detriment, I might add, to the detriment of other industries such as the fossil fuel industry, which is heavily subsidised by the UK at the moment, to the point where they'll even hide £11 billion worth of subsidies elsewhere and break what rules we have. But again, will the EU allow that to happen as a rules-based organisation? Or will they say that, no, you'll have to come back with something better than that because that affects the level playing field? Now, you could make the case, I'm sure you could make the case with all of those policies and other policies that Labour and Jeremy Corbyn have. You could make the case that the EU would definitely make it difficult for him to implement those policies as he wants to and as he's laid out. And if you wanted to go even further, you could make the case that the EU would make it impossible for him to implement those policies that I assume you support if you support Jeremy Corbyn. Therefore, how can people support Jeremy Corbyn but still support stopping in an organisation which many people say is anti-socialist and anti his agenda, and will do everything within their power and with everything within their rules-based organisation to stop him implementing those policies that you support? I don't see how you could hold those two thoughts and those two opinions in your head at the same time as it stands, but I am willing to change my opinion if somebody can shed some light on it. Because the more I look into it, the more I see the EU is anti-socialist, the more I see they will make it extremely difficult, if not impossible, for Jeremy Corbyn to implement the policies that I want to see him implement. Therefore, if you want to stop in the EU, why do you support Jeremy Corbyn? And why do you support Jeremy Corbyn if you want to stop in the EU? I really would like somebody to answer that question, because it's confused the hell out of me. Hashtag Lexit, Nikki. Absolutely. Hashtag Lexit. The left's, what is it they call it? The left's case for Brexit. Honestly, I'm no genius, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking I can't understand how people can hold those two thoughts in their head at the same time. I understand if you want to remain in the EU, and I understand if you want to leave. I understand if you support Jeremy Corbyn. I understand if you don't. I could have a conversation with you about them. We'd probably get on fine. But if you support Jeremy Corbyn and you want to stop in the EU, those two opinions just seem to be opposed to me. They seem to be in opposite. They seem to be like two magnets pushing away from each other. Please, somebody explain it to me. Wednesday says you can support the sum of Corbyn's policies without supporting every policy. I support Corbyn maybe for one quality: he's genuinely peaceful. I don't need to agree on everything else. Well, yeah, but even that, he's genuinely peaceful. Would the EU allow him to be that? With the EU obviously starting up their European army. You know, what's next? Conscription? I've heard that France are going to bring that back. Are the EU going to make it a rule for everybody? You know, you just don't know. Especially if you're not part of the organisation that's actually making the bloody rules. Which is the case if we leave with Theresa May's Brexit deal, which, by the way, there is a stipulation in Theresa May's Brexit deal which literally just puts the kibosh on certainly the renationalisation of the railways. It just puts a stop to it. I don't get it. I don't get how people can have those two thoughts at the same time. This is something else that I find strange as well. People who are saying that Corbyn wants to stop in the EU. I've had that comment on my videos loads of times. Corbyn wants to stop in the EU. Really? Corbyn, who knows that the EU is basically an anti-socialist organisation, who is a die-hard socialist, who hasn't changed his mind on anything for the last 50 years, which I assume probably includes what sort of slippers he wears before he goes to bed, whose hero was the loudest anti-EU voice, Tony Benn, in Westminster for the last 30, 40 years. And you really think that Corbyn wants to stop in the EU, knowing all of these things? It makes no sense. No sense whatsoever. Nikki M says, we have already signed up to EU military unification. I hope to somebody's God Corbyn can reverse this decision. Check out UK Column News website for more info. Okay, thank you, Nikki. I didn't realise we'd signed up to it. Stephen Stock says, I want to be at the Corbyn and Trump summit when Jeremy Corbyn is Prime Minister. I want to be at that as well. If I wanted to drop my trousers and show Trump my arse. I will do it, I promise you. If ever he drives past me, I will drop my trousers and show him my bare bottom. I will. I promise. Okay, there's something else I wanted to get to. Let me just set it up before I get to it, because this is, guys, what I read today. What I read today was I'll tell you in the story. It's unbelievable, but it is believable. That's the ridiculous world that we live in at the moment. It's believable that they would even try it. Sean Calder says JC is a true Bennite and anti-EEC and anti-EU. Judge Galloway will put you right on that one. Damn straight he will, Sean. These people who are trying to make out that Jeremy Corbyn is wants to remain in the EU, really they need to get their head checked and just listen to some of George Galloway for a bit, because he will set them straight within 30 seconds. And he knows, he knew Ben, he knows Jeremy Corbyn, he knows these people. But George Galloway, let's face it, has a history of telling the truth and being right on things, which is possibly why the establishment, I say possibly, which is definitely why the establishment fling so much mud at him and try and discredit him. It's sad that their propaganda works, to be quite honest. Jimbo Jones says it's not what Corbyn wants, but the Labour Party are you remaining in the EU. Well, this is the thing, Jimbo, because Jeremy Corbyn, although this is what he will know and this is what he wants, Jeremy Corbyn is also a democratic person who supports democracy and supports voting at every level of government, and every level of the Labour Party. So he'll go along with whatever the majority want. I can't see how you would want to stop in the EU if you support Jeremy Corbyn's policies, because you can be certain that they will make it, at the very least, they will make it extremely difficult for him to implement them, and at the very worst, they'll make it impossible. All right, I wanted to get to this story because. Hi everyone. So I wanted to get to this story because this is, in the last 2 years, there's been so much crap written about the Russian collusion conspiracy between Donald Trump and Russia and supposedly some sort of Kremlin plant. I can't say it without even laughing, but I can't complete the sentence without laughing. But what I read today was the worst piece of arse gravy I have ever read in my life, masquerading as journalism. And it will come as no surprise to regular viewers of this channel that the person who wrote this piece of arse gravy masquerading as journalism was none other than Luke Harding of The Guardian. He wrote this: Manafort held secret talks with Assange in Ecuadorian embassy. Sources say. Really? Do they, Luke? Sources say it, do they? Sources say Trump ally met WikiLeaks founder months before emails hacked by Russia were published? Okay, Luke, let's see what your evidence is, Mr. Harding. Here he is, Luke Harding and Dan Collins in Quito. They jointly wrote this piece of arse gravy. It starts off by saying Donald Trump's former campaign manager, Paul Manafort, held secret talks with Julian Assange inside the Ecuadorian embassy in London and visited around the time he joined Trump's campaign. The Guardian has been told. I've highlighted the important bits in this. Sources have said. Which sources are they, Luke? Who told The Guardian? Which sources are they? Anyway, sources have said Manafort went to see Assange in 2013. 2013? This is they conspired to put Trump in power with the Kremlin and WikiLeaks even before Trump had acknowledged that he was running. Wow, this is incredible. Sources said Manafort went to see Assange in 2013, 2015 and spring 2016 during the period when he was made a key figure in Trump's push for the White House. Maybe in 2013 he knew he was going to be part of that campaign and that's why he did it. Or maybe that was why he was employed by Trump. That's why Trump employed him. It's because he met WikiLeaks in 2013. It is unclear why Manafort would have wanted to see Assange and what was discussed. Really, is it, Luke? Is it unclear? Or were you just implying that they were talking about this Russia collusion that you've been talking about non-stop for 2 years and wrote a book about? But the last apparent meeting is likely to come under scrutiny and could interest Robert Mueller, the special prosecutor who's investigating alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. A well-placed source. Really, Luke? A well-placed source? Is that his name, is he? Mr. Well-placed Source? Has told The Guardian that Manafort went to see Assange around March 2016. Months later, WikiLeaks released a stash of Democratic emails stolen by Russian intelligence officers. Luke, Guardian, just one thing. That last sentence there that I've highlighted, yeah, that's demonstrably false. That's an outright lie. There is no evidence to say that WikiLeaks released those emails and they were stolen by Russian intelligence, and any attempts from anybody to prove that have been debunked over and over again by geniuses such as Bill Binney. You are absolutely pushing a lie 100% there, Luke Harding. But congratulations and well done for doing it. Unbelievable. Manafort, 69, denies involvement in the hack and says the claim is 100% false. Well, what a fucking surprise. His lawyers declined to answer the Guardian's questions about the visits. Did they decline when they declined? Was it this way? Are you fucking kidding me? Is that what they said when you asked? In a series of tweets, WikiLeaks said Assange and Manafort had not met. Well, you know what? WikiLeaks have such a history of lying to us. They have lied to us 100% of the time, over and over and over. Oh, wait, no, they haven't, have they? No, everything they've said is true in history. Oh. Gonna have to come back from that, Luke. Come on, keep going. I'm sure you can find more sources for this, Luke. Keep going. Manafort was jailed this year, it says there, for nothing to do with Russia or collusion or anything like that. Doesn't put that in the article at all, but he continues, and was thought to have become a star cooperator with the Mueller inquiry. But on Monday, Mueller said Manafort had repeatedly lied to the FBI. Despite agreeing to cooperate 2 months ago in a plea deal, according to a court document, Manafort had committed, quote, crimes and lies on a variety of subject matters, brackets, none of which had anything to do with Russia or Trump or collusion. Don't put that in the Guardian article, though, do they? His defence team says he believes what he has been told Mueller to be truthful and has not violated the deal. You can see there is no factual evidence at all in this article, is there? And there's not going to be. It continues. Manafort's first visit was to the embassy took place a year after Assange sought asylum inside. 2 sources said. Really, Luke, what sources are they? Are these the same sources that talk to you about Christopher Steele? Are these the same sources that talk to you about, you know, all the other Russia collusion stuff that you've been wrong about? They're the same sources, by any chance? A separate internal document. What internal document was this? A separate internal document written by Ecuador's Senane intelligence agency. Was it on a beer mat? What internal document was it? WikiLeaks actually show you the document. God, the Guardian don't even tell you what sort of document it is. But hey, we've got to believe it. It's true. Luke Harding told you so. The document apparently said Paul Manafort as apparently listed Paul Manafort as one of several well-known guests. It also mentioned Russians. Oh my God! Oh my God, it mentions Russians. They've got an internal document in the Ecuadorian intelligence agency that mentions Russians. According to the sources, according to the source, how many sources has he got for this that don't want to be exposed? Are you sure there's any sources here, Luke, or did you MI5 mates just make things up again? Manafort returned to the embassy in 2015. He paid another visit in spring 2016. Guys, you know what? Just stop with all the bullshit, will you? The area is covered by fucking surveillance cameras. If Manafort went anywhere near the Ecuadorian embassy, you'll have him on camera. Just come out and give the proof, instead of just giving article after article of bullshit, drivel, arse gravy like this. For flying out. Jesus. Ugh. I can't even get my words out. This is so much drivel. Turning up alone around the time Trump named him as his convention manager, the visit is tentatively dated in March. What date was it, Luke? What date? God damn, this is arse gravy of the worst kind. Manafort's 2016 visit to Assange lasted about 40 minutes. One source said. He's got more sources than HP. Adding that the American was casually dressed when he exited the embassy, wearing sandy-coloured chinos, a cardigan and a light-coloured shirt. Well, thank you for describing what he was wearing that day. Have you got a picture? Have you got the name of the guy who saw him? Have you got any fucking evidence whatsoever? Or is it all bullshit again? Visitors normally register with the embassy security guards and show their passports. Sources in Ecuador, however, say Manafort was not logged. Why couldn't you tell us what those sources were? Embassy staff were aware only later of the potential significance of Manafort's visit and his political role with Trump. It is understood. It is understood by who? Understood by people like you who believe in fairy tales? Because your mates at GCHQ want you to? And it's good propaganda? Is it, Luke? Your lapdog to power you? Your lickspittle? The revelation could shed new light on a sequence of events in the run-up to summer 2016 when WikiLeaks published tens of thousands of emails hacked by the GRU. No, they fucking didn't. Again, that's a demonstrable lie. Demonstrable lie. You are talking here about the infamous Guccifer, who Bill Binney has proven was manipulating the data from the download so we could have two batches, and they synced like this, remember? And they proved that the download speed couldn't have come from that guy that you said was the GRU source, because the transfer speed was too fucking fast. This is absolute bullshit. It's bullshit. And The Guardian, what are you thinking, letting this man write in your publication? Are you trying to run it into the ground intentionally? It goes on. It goes on. I've got to show it. It's the worst piece of arse gravy I've ever read in my life. The previously unreported Manafort-Assange connection is likely to be of interest to Mueller, who has been investigating possible contacts between WikiLeaks and associates of Trump, including the political lobbyist Roger Stone and Donald Trump Jr. They have been trying desperately to link Roger Stone to WikiLeaks through Randy Credico. Desperately, and they just can't, but they will not let it go. And this is going to be another situation of like this with Manafort and WikiLeaks. All hearsay, all conjecture, all how one source said this, one source said that, and absolutely no cast iron evidence whatsoever. Earlier this year, Mueller indicted 12 GRU intelligence officers for carrying out the hack. What the fuck has that got to do with WikiLeaks? Or Manafort? In June of that year, WikiLeaks emailed the GRU via an intermediary seeking the DNC material. Yes, they did. It's called gathering more sources. It's good journalistic practice. WikiLeaks do it better than anybody else on the fucking planet, and that sort of thing is why. After failed attempts, Vladimir Putin's spies, oh my god, here we go, sent the documents in mid-July to WikiLeaks as an encrypted attachment. No proof whatsoever at all of that. At fucking all. But they state it as fact in their arse gravy of a publication. According to sources, again, no names in it whatsoever. According to sources, Manafort's acquaintance with Assange goes back at least 5 years. To late 2012 or 2013, don't know. It depends on, you know, what source at GCHQ wants to feed me the bullshit. That must be what Luke Harding was thinking at the time when he wrote this. When the American was working in Ukraine and advising its Moscow-friendly president Viktor Yanukovych. Why Manafort might have sought out in Assange in 2013 is unclear. Really? It's unclear, is it, Luke? Or are you only writing this because it fits into your entire bullshit story, bullshit narrative of the last 2.5 years, the conspiracy that Donald Trump is in Vladimir Putin's pocket and they conspired to win the presidency and he's beholden to Putin because there's a fucking tape of 2 Russian prostitutes peeing on a bed? Is that what you are really suggesting, Luke Harding? Because that is fucking preposterous. Why Manafort might have sought out Assange in 2013 is unclear. No, but you're saying that it's clear that they were getting together. They were going to collude. And the thing that drives me mad about this, I'm sorry, the thing that drives me mad about this, absolutely mad, is the mainstream media. You just know the mainstream media in America are going to have multiple orgasms on a daily basis over this, and they already are. I give you Chris Hayes. He's retweeted it out. The sourcing on this is a bit thin. It's a bit thin, the sourcing is. No kidding, Sherlock. There's no fucking sourcing in it whatsoever. But however, the sourcing on this is a bit thin, or at least obscured. But it's the ultimate power of truth. Oh my god, it's Paul Graham of truth. Oh, he's jumping up and down. You can see him behind, his head jumping up, bouncing up and down behind his desk. Because he's short. One person, I've got to show you this, because this is hilarious, really. It says, at the end of that article, it goes on to talk about Christopher, it's total bollocks, it really is. But it says, at the end of the article, why Manafort might have sought out Assange in 2013 is unclear. You can see he's trying to construct a narrative here. He's trying to say, hey, this is collusion that goes back years. And it's 100% bullshit that he's spilling you. And it's in The Guardian. And the Guardian, I can't believe it, but The Guardian got rid of journalists like John Pilger and kept journalists like Luke Harding. It's incredible to me that happened. Absolutely incredible. But the thing is, people who want facts and evidence before they jump to conclusions are already onto this. People like Aaron Matte, a second Manafort-related bombshell one day after Mueller ends their cooperation deal and accuses him of lying. Starting to ask questions. People who want, evidence and facts before jumping to conclusions. And obviously, other people have noticed other connections that are happening at the same time as well. This is from good old Nellie Tells. Thank you for this, Nellie. Also, it came a day after the anti-WikiLeaks ex-CIA director Pompeo met with Ecuador's foreign minister, who has already shown he's willing to lie about Assange. Luke Harding is like a parody of a journalist now. He's almost like an anti-journalist. He's not a journalist. He's literally just a mouthpiece for his GCHQ friends. and whatever narrative they want to try and spin to the country. He's the worst kind of journalist. He's the sort of person Jamie Clarkson would take the piss out of. You know, if Jamie Clarkson was still on Top Gear. Some say he sees Russian collusion around every corner. And if you say that he's a crap journalist, he'll call you a collusion rejectionist. It's actually got to the stage now where the Guardian they should just shut the fucking doors. That's the level of journalism you allow on your publication, yet you'll get rid of people like John Pilger and not allow them to write for you anymore. And that's the situation in the news right now. You've got the mainstream news, the corporate news, the Guardian, and no doubt MSNBC and the Washington Post and the New York Times will all jump up and down on this and investigate the crap out of it, and it'll be in the news cycle for weeks, maybe. Yet one cursory reading of it, you can see that there's not a fucking shred of evidence to it whatsoever. But they'll all be jumping up and down about it. You can see, and that is the state of the news right now. That is the state of the corporate media and the establishment media. And that's why people like me, I suppose, have a channel. And why people like me are getting more and more popular. Can you believe that, guys? Can you believe that piece of arse gravy I just read out to you? Or was I making a big deal out of it? Because that, to me, was sort of anti-journalism. Xenu Scientology, thank you very much, buddy. Thank you very much. EU SSR, same one in, question mark, EU SSR. Ooh. Anthony Reyes, thank you, Anthony. Sources say we'll get Assange tortured, poor chap. You know what? I can't even imagine what the Americans will do to him. It won't be Guantanamo Bay he goes to. Guantanamo Bay will be a fucking picnic compared to what he'll get held in. They will torture him. They will torture him. They will try any and all means that possible to get his sources and the people who leaked certain documents to him. For instance, Vault 7 for sure. They will torture the crap out of him. They will. They will. For being a journalist. And shitty publications like The Guardian are jumping up and down, cheerleading the United States government along with the UK government, the lapdogs to the US, cheering them on in doing it, not realising that it opens every single one of their fucking journalists up for exactly the same criminal activities that he's going to be charged with. It opens them all up to being prosecuted with the same fucking thing. And they are cheering it on. That's The Guardian for you. Thank you, John Lamb. I appreciate that, matey. Arse gravy. Hashtag arse gravy. Let's get it trending. Oh, Luca Clemente, fucking great point, mate. I love how all these official news sources insist on pretending that Bill Binney does not exist. Bill Binney is basically I would go so far as to say he's the biggest genius ever to work at the NSA. You know, he's debunked that Guccifer crap over and over and over, along with many other experts. Yet the Guardian still keep pushing it. You saw it there. They were stating it as fact. They were stating those things as outright fact, and they're demonstrably not fucking true. They are 100% lies, and I would expect no less from... I'm not even going to call him the J word. From the stenographer that is Luke Harding. That's the state of journalism in the UK. The Mycroft says, I can totally believe it. Propaganda is always bloody ridiculous. I know. It's just getting to the stage now where if you have it's getting to the stage now where if you sort of have unplugged from mainstream media like I have, and you see it, you can fucking see it's so clear as day. If you sort of inoculate yourself against it by taking yourself away from it for a while, it's become so obvious. So obvious. Keith Durant, yes, Gordon, he will be convicted on secret evidence by a secret court and held in a secret place for national security. It's exactly what will happen, Keith. That's exactly what will happen. And that'll be a sad day for the planet. They have zero journalists, so they don't care, says Ian Sheehy. I assume you're talking about The Guardian there. They have got one or two. Owen Jones is a very good journalist. They have got one or two. Owen Jones is very good. There's another guy as well there, and a girl as well. But the majority of them, there were no John Pilgers there. There were no Robert Fisks at The Guardian. There were some good journalists, but there were no outstanding journalists there at all. And the majority of them are just lickspittles. That's all. Ian Sheehy says, sorry, but Gordon is British, so it is clearly arse gravy. Yes, it is. No offence. Love you all. Echo those sentiments, Ian. It is arse gravy. It's not ass gravy. And by the way, America, why is it? Why is it? Explain to me how on these late night TV shows, late night with Stephen Colbert or Stephen Colbert, as we call him over here, Stephen Colbert. No, your name's Stephen Colbert, mate. Hyacinth Bucket, is it? Why is it that if they say arsehole or somebody says arsehole on their show, in the repeat, they bleep out the word hole and leave in the word arse? I heard it. I think I was watching an interview with John Oliver. He was on Stephen Colbert's show. And he said arsehole, and they bleeped the word hole. I thought, is that a mistake? Apparently not. Apparently they do it on purpose. Strange country. And they give $716 billion to their military every year. Missed the start of your stream, Gordon Dimmack. Tuesdays are aggressive progressives on TYT. Yeah, but that's not live, mate. At least I don't think so. It might be, actually, Tuesday. Yeah, it might be. Every time Gordon says lickspittle or harsh gravy, I laugh. It's getting more and more, Jeremy, because there are a hell of a lot more lickspittles out there writing articles of harsh gravy like that. Chris Hayes did a great piece on RT America on Assange this week. It's on their YouTube channel. I assure you Chris Hayes did not, Nikki. I assure you that was Chris Hedges, not Chris Hayes. Yeah, it did. It was called Recapturing Julian Assange or something like that. It was excellent. It's On Contact with Chris Hedges. Go and watch it on RT. It was really good, and they make a great point about how these journalists not sticking up for him. They're just not sticking up for themselves, and they played a long recording by Christine Assange's mother as well. It was heartbreaking. It really was. Yeah. So Chris Hedges. Chris Hayes. Chris Hedges did it on RT on Contact. Why do they say I could care less? Premature procrastinator. Yeah, you're right. It's I couldn't care less. I don't get that either. I could care less. If you could care less, then you could care less about it. That's a semantically null statement. Ass is an animal as well, so it doesn't mean your butt until hole is added. But it was John Oliver. He said arsehole. I heard him. He said arsehole, and they bleeped the word hole and left the word arse in. And trust me, it's John Oliver. He's not going to say asshole. You've heard John Oliver speak. Ugh, Luca. Just getting down to the bottom now. Chris Hayes has done a couple of decent pieces lately. Chris Hedges is a legend and everyone should give him a listen, says Rex the Younger. I totally agree, Rex. Chris Hayes has done probably 2 good reports in the last 18 months that I'm aware of. So in the last 18 months, I assume he's on an hour a day, every day of the week, 5 hours a week, so 250 hours a year, something like that. He'll be on our screens at minimum, just on his show. And from what I've seen, he's done about 3.5 minutes of good reporting. Chris Hedges does that every 3.5 minutes of every show he does. Yet, hey, Chris Hedges on RT, Russian propagandist. Chris Hayes, great journalist. Dear me. The mainstream media is dead, says the Funkadelic fan. You are absolutely right. And I think I'm going to leave that here, guys. I've done a couple of things, so I'll edit these videos. I'll probably release one in about an hour. Another one tomorrow. I've also got another video on Julian Assange to release from last week. That'll come up tomorrow, and lots of other stuff as well. Thanks for everybody who supports what I do. Couldn't do it without you. I really do mean it when I say I love you all. And just there at the bottom, Thomas Rittenhouse says, Redacted Tonight with Lee Camp is a good news programme, but must register as a foreign agent for being on RT America. Ridiculous, yes. Lee Camp on Redacted Tonight, by the way, they broke a story, I think it was about 8 months ago, on the Pentagon, and the Pentagon not ever have being able to do an audit and losing $21 trillion. They broke it, they talked about it for good 2 or 3 episodes on RT America. It was a good 8 months ago. I'll have to look up under the date. And I saw today The Nation have written an article on that very same thing by the look of it and said exclusive. This is an exclusive report. So we'll see. I'll look into it, but it looks very much to me like they're basically saying exclusive 8 months after RT had reported it on Redacted Tonight. That's it, everybody. Thanks very much for all your support. As I say, I love you all. I'll be back tomorrow with more videos, and I'll see you again every Tuesday for the Tuesday Chat Live. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the Tuesday Chat Live. I thought about calling it something like the Tuesday Chinwag, but I thought that's a bit too cheesy. Love you all, everybody. Thanks very much for all your support. As I say, see you all tomorrow. Peace out.